August 23, 1912, a date that would forever be etched in the annals of American history. It was supposed to be a day of joy for the Dunbar family, a day filled with laughter, love, and the simple pleasures of a family outing. They were on a trip, enjoying the sunshine at Swayze Lake in Louisiana. The lake, with its serene waters and picturesque surroundings, was a popular spot for families seeking a brief respite from their daily routines. 4-year-old Bobby Dunbar, full of life and curiosity, played near the water's edge. His laughter echoed through the air, a sound that brought immense joy to his parents. His parents, Lessie and Percy, watched with smiles, their hearts swelling with pride and love for their young son. They had no inkling of the tragedy that was about to unfold. Then, in a horrifying blink, Bobby vanished. Panic gripped the Dunbars as they frantically searched for their beloved child. The joyous outing had turned into a nightmare. They searched frantically for their son, calling out his name, hoping for a response that never came. The community quickly rallied around them, forming search parties to comb the area. The lake, dark and unforgiving, yielded no answers. Days turned into weeks, and the hope of finding Bobby began to wane. The once serene waters now seemed ominous, hiding secrets beneath their surface. The search for Bobby Dunbar became a national headline. Newspapers across the country carried the story, capturing the hearts and minds of the American public. People across the country followed the story, their hearts breaking for the devastated parents. Communities far and wide felt the weight of the Dunbars' sorrow, and many offered their prayers and support. Newspaper articles detailed every twist and turn. Theories abounded. Had Bobby drowned in the lake's murky depths? Was he snatched by a wild animal lurking in the shadows? Was he snatched by an animal? The swamps and forests around Swayze Lake were home to many creatures, and the thought of a wild animal taking Bobby was a terrifying possibility. Or most disturbingly, was he kidnapped? The idea that someone could have taken Bobby away from his family was a chilling thought that haunted the Dunbars day and night. Hope dwindled with each passing day. The search parties grew weary, and the once vibrant community spirit began to fade. The Dunbars were left clinging to the slimmest possibility that their little boy was still alive, somewhere. The Dunbars clung to the slimmest possibility that their little boy was still alive, somewhere. They refused to give up, holding on to the hope that Bobby would be returned to them. The mystery of Bobby Dunbar's disappearance gripped the nation. It was a story that resonated with every parent, a reminder of the fragility of life and the ever-present danger that lurked in the shadows. It was a parent's worst nightmare come true, a story that touched the core of every family in America. The fear of losing a child, the helplessness, and the unending search for answers were emotions that every parent could relate to. A story that touched the core of every family in America. The Dunbars' tragedy became a shared sorrow, a collective grief that united the nation in its quest for answers and justice for little Bobby Dunbar. Months later, a glimmer of hope emerged from an unexpected place. A man named William Cantwell Walters was apprehended in Mississippi. He traveled with a young boy who matched Bobby's description. News spread like wildfire. Could this be him? Could Bobby be alive? The Dunbars, clinging to hope, traveled to Mississippi. They were desperate for any sign that this boy, with his bright eyes and shy smile, was their lost son. The reunion was one of both anticipation and anxiety. Could this be the miracle they had prayed for? Or was it a cruel trick of fate, a false hope that would shatter their hearts all over again? The moment Lessie Dunbar laid eyes on the boy, she was overcome with emotion. Her heart raced, and tears welled up in her eyes as she took in the sight of the child she had longed to see for so many agonizing months. The pain of separation, the sleepless nights, and the endless prayers all seemed to culminate in this one powerful moment. Despite the months that had passed, she was sure the boy standing before her was her Bobby. She recognized the familiar features, the way he stood, and even the small scar on his cheek. It was as if time had stood still, and she was transported back to the last time she had seen him. Her motherly instinct screamed that this was her child. "He's my Bobby!" she exclaimed, embracing the child tightly. Her voice was filled with a mix of relief, joy, and an unshakable certainty. The embrace was not just a hug, it was a declaration, a reclaiming of what was rightfully hers. She held him as if she would never let go again, as if her love alone could protect him from any future harm. The boy, timid and confused, didn't resist her embrace. He stood there, enveloped in her arms, trying to make sense of the overwhelming emotions and the unfamiliar faces around him. The Dunbars were overjoyed. Their hearts swelled with happiness, and they felt a sense of completeness that had been missing for so long. They believed, without a shadow of a doubt, that their son had been found. The months of uncertainty, the endless search, and the heartache seemed to vanish in an instant. They were a family once more, and nothing else mattered. Their home was filled with laughter and joy, and they began to make plans for the future, a future that now seemed bright and full of promise. The reunion made headlines, offering a happy ending to a story that had captivated the nation. Newspapers across the country featured the heartwarming tale of a mother's unwavering love and the miraculous return of her lost son. People from all walks of life were touched by the story, and it became a symbol of hope and resilience. But the happy reunion was not without its doubters. Some people questioned the authenticity of the boy's identity. They wondered if it was possible for a child to be found after so long, and if the emotional reunion had clouded the Dunbar's judgment. Whispers of skepticism began to circulate, casting a shadow over the joyous occasion. The boy's arrival in their lives felt like a dream come true. For the Dunbars, it was as if all their prayers had been answered. They cherished every moment with him, trying to make up for the lost time. They showered him with love and attention, hoping to erase any trauma he might have experienced during their separation. But their joy would soon be clouded by another mother's claim, a claim that would shake the very foundation of their newfound happiness. Another woman stepped forward, asserting that the boy was her son. Her voice was filled with the same desperation and conviction that Lessie had shown. The situation quickly became complicated, and the once clear-cut reunion was now mired in doubt and confusion. A claim that threatened to unravel everything. The Dunbars found themselves in the midst of a bitter dispute, with emotions running high on all sides. The community was divided, and the media frenzy only added to the chaos. What was supposed to be a happy ending had turned into a contentious battle, leaving everyone involved questioning the truth and searching for answers. Section 4. A Mother's Plea Ignored. Julia Anderson, a woman from North Carolina, stepped forward with a heart-wrenching claim. She was a mother who had lost her child, and her story was one of desperation and hope. Julia's life had been filled with hardship, but nothing compared to the pain of losing her son. This was not Bobby Dunbar, she insisted. Her voice trembled with emotion as she spoke, her eyes filled with tears. She knew her son Bruce, and she was certain that the boy everyone believed to be Bobby was in fact her missing child. This was her son, Bruce. The resemblance was undeniable to her, and she could not understand why others could not see it. She had spent countless nights worrying about him, praying for his safety, and now, she was so close to being reunited with him. Julia, who worked as a field hand, had entrusted Bruce to a couple who later disappeared with him. She had no choice but to work long hours in the fields to provide for her family, and she had trusted the couple to take care of her son. The betrayal she felt was immense. She recognized William Cantwell Walters as a man who had worked for her family. Walters was a handyman who had come and gone, but she remembered him well. She was convinced that he had taken Bruce and passed him off as Bobby Dunbar. She believed Walters had taken Bruce. Her conviction was strong, and she was determined to prove it. She had no doubt in her mind that Walters was responsible for her son's disappearance. Despite her pleas, Julia's claims were dismissed. The courtrooms were filled with people who did not believe her, who saw her as just another poor black woman with no credibility. Her heart broke every time her words were ignored. The authorities, swayed by the Dunbars' certainty and the public sentiment, didn't believe her. The Dunbars were a well-respected family, and their word carried weight. The public wanted to believe in the happy ending of Bobby Dunbar's return, and Julia's story was an inconvenient truth. Julia was a poor black woman in the segregated South. Her social standing made it easy for people to dismiss her claims. The color of her skin and her economic status worked against her in a society that was deeply divided by race and class. Her voice was silenced, her pain ignored. She felt invisible, as if her suffering did not matter to anyone. The injustice of it all was overwhelming, but she refused to give up. She continued to fight for her son, even when it seemed hopeless. The court, blinded by prejudice and eager for a happy ending, failed to see the truth. They wanted to believe that Bobby Dunbar had been found, and they were willing to overlook the possibility that Julia Anderson was telling the truth. Her story was a tragic reminder of the biases and injustices that plague society. Section 5. The law sides with the Dunbars. The legal battle for the boy was fierce. Julia Anderson fought tirelessly to prove her claim. but the odds were stacked against her. The court, influenced by public opinion and the Dunbars' social standing, ruled in their favor. The boy, officially declared to be Bobby Dunbar, went home with the Dunbars. Julia Anderson was left heartbroken, her son seemingly lost to her forever. The court's decision left a lingering question: had justice truly been served? The courtroom drama only intensified the national fascination with the case. But behind the headlines, two families were grappling with an agonizing reality. Section 6. Decades of Doubt. The boy grew up as Bobby Dunbar, surrounded by the family who claimed him. He married, had children, and lived a seemingly ordinary life. Yet, whispers of doubt lingered. Some family members harbored suspicions about his true identity. The resemblance to the Dunbars was questionable, but the family, perhaps afraid to reopen old wounds, chose to keep their doubts private. Years turned into decades. The mystery of Bobby Dunbar faded from the headlines, but never from the memories of those who knew the story. Then, a century later, a twist of fate would rewrite history.